All right. I hope you everybody knows we're going to be talking about hemming today, and there's so many different possibilities with hemming, and we won't be able to cover them all. But if you have hemming questions, I hope you'll uh, put those in the comments. So, in my preparation today of collecting things to talk about hemming, I came across a couple of items that I just wanted to share with you, and maybe you know what they are. So, I am often gifted. Someone's grandmother passes and they have all of her stuff and they don't know how to use it or what to do with it. So, I'm often gifted these things. So I was going through a box yesterday of these things, and this woman was obviously did crochet. So I have some really beautiful old school wooden spools with the crochet thread. I just think that's beautiful just to look at. Of course, I'm a little crazy about sewing things. And does anybody remember these, or did you ever use one of these? Now, are you able to get in close so they can see what I have here? It's a spool with four nails sticking out of the top. Who knows what that is or has ever used it?
Any comments?
We got any comment? I'm gonna keep going here. Well, if anybody knows, put a comment in, please. Um, so anyway, in all of her crochet threads and different items, I found a couple of items that are unfamiliar to me. I'm going to put this on the table here, Audrey, so you can do a close up of it. If anybody knows what this is, please tell us because we're curious. It's got a little, well, it isn't spring clamp, but it's some kind of a clamp here. Huh. I don't know
Yeah,
exactly.
I know.
I don't know. We could not figure out what it was or even what it might be. We found a there's a patent, and what was the name of the company?
Boy,
Bo
Boye.
Boye was on one side. So if anybody knows what that is, sing it out because we're really curious.
Knitting for cord knitting on that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's what.
Mm-hmm. This someone has answered it. I don't know if there was a different name. I think we called it rat tail, but it's how you make a cord. So if you were crocheting a little bag and you wanted to make the cord, you loop threads and then you just around the little needles with a crochet hook, you pick one up and put it over, take the bottom one over here, take the bottom one, you keep going and it comes out the bottom of the spool. And you just keep pulling it, you get the length that you want. We did this a lot when we were kids. That was a fun pastime. Okay, but nobody knows what this is.
Somebody just guessed a third hand.
A third hand, but I don't know because it doesn't clamp to anything. This thing isn't even, it's, look, it looks like, um, you know, those ball chains where the thing
Yeah.
slides into the hook? Because it doesn't, it's not open. It's only partway open and it has a wider hole, like maybe something, I don't. Anyways, we won't make a day of it if nobody knows. All right, here's my second item and last. Does anybody know what this is? It has a very distinctive end on it, pointed and definitely shaped in a specific way. And then it has this as the other end.
In the UK, the nails, the spool with the nails,
Yeah.
was called a French dolly.
Okay. So one of the viewers said that in the United Kingdom, these were called a French dolly. So that's interesting. I remember I wanted to do that. My dad got little finishing nails and put them. You couldn't do it now because we don't have wooden spools. All right. Okay. Well, if anybody has any insight, we'd love to hear. But that will be that. And the reason I was also going through here is I was finding I did find that she kept seam tape wound on one of these wooden spools, and we're going to talk about seam tape today, so I'll leave that out. All right. So, hems. Hems are they're varied. There's lots of different types of hems. And when I first started sewing in the 60s, most hems were done by hand. Almost all hems, especially for home sewers. In the garment factories, they had what's called the blind hemming machine. And so they would blind hem them there, but almost no hems were straight stitched. But today, we've abandoned the need that there has to be hand stitched. And when I was thinking about this program today, I reminded me of my mother-in-law, who has passed and was a lovely woman and a good seamstress. However, one time I went to her house on vacation. She was in Arizona, and I bought a pair of terry cloth pants, and I didn't have time to hem them. And of course, they were way too long for me. So when I went to her house, I said, "Oh, would you do me a favor?" And I cut them off and I said, "Just hem these up on the machine." She goes, "You're not supposed to hem anything on a machine." I go, "No, it's okay. Everybody's doing it." Nope, she would not hem my pants for me. I didn't get to wear them on my vacation because it was a steadfast rule that you did not machine stitch a hem. But that's not true anymore. So let's start out with what you would do if you were going to hem by machine and what you would hem by machine. So with a straight stitch hem, children's playwear, simple garments, a lot of cottons will work really well with just a turned edge. So you have two options, either single turn or double turn. Of course, if you're only going to single turn, there's a couple of things you've got to do. One, you need to finish the edge. So I put this one through the 3-thread serger. No need for any more than 3 threads because we just want to cover the edge. And then we want to turn this under, and usually it's somewhere between a quarter and a half of an inch. So when we decide what distance we want to turn it under, I'm going to turn it under like that, and I'm going to put it under the foot and hold it down with the needle. And that's your third hand right there, that needle. Okay, now I'm just going to come back, fold that same distance under, stitch my hem. And we have a nice straight hem, and I'm stitching right on this edge here. And if you can't, you say, "Oh God, how do you do that, Janet? I can't see what I'm doing." Well, I can feel the edge because it's serged. Also, with a little practice, and I mean very little practice, like 5 or 6 inches, you'll figure out where your foot has to be. In this case, my foot, the outside edge needs to be against this fold, and I'm hitting right on that serged edge. So that's how you would accomplish a single turn. And if you are working with a nice firmly woven cotton, it will turn very nicely and very easily. But you're going to stitch from the right side in many cases because those of you who know Islander sewing systems know that we are counteracting the feed dog. So we want to make sure that everything gets fed in. And if we're sewing from the top, we could get uh, little tucks. Have you ever done that? You get a little tucks, you turn it over, and there's tucks on the right side. Well, that's the last place you want them. So that's because of the feed dog. So we know that with Islanders, so we counteract that. Now, in many cases, if you want to narrow a top straight stitch hem, you might want to double turn it. And it's the same operation, absolutely the same operation. So we're just going to double turn this just about that far. I didn't press it. I'm not going to even finger press it. And again, I folded it about the same as before, only double. And the reason we're doing this is because we want a nice clean edge. So when we stitch up a hem and it has the serged edge, even if the serging matches the color of the fabric, it's still not as pretty as it would be if it was just a clean edge. So if you've got a garment and let's say it's a shirt and you know you're going to not tuck it in, you're going to wear it out, or maybe it's kind of an overshirt, you definitely want a double turned hem so it looks nice and clean when it pops out. So double turn and see we're going right on that edge. You don't want to be in from that edge. So when you're practicing, if you're getting in too far, that's not going to work because this edge of this fabric will curl back up, especially after it's laundered. And then you're going to have to press it down every time you wear it. I don't want to do that. So make sure you get really close. And remember, this is what we call a needle width away. Now, both of these techniques and the shirt tail technique are in our Islander Sewing Systems shortcuts, Islander Shortcuts 1, which is available as a video class that you can download or watch online. And it's part of our sale this week. So we've got a bundle on sale this week. So make sure you take a look at the newsletter. I'll try to go over that again at the end of today's program. Okay, so that's single rolled and double rolled for a nice straight stitch. But if you've got a shirt tail hem, you're going to have a couple of different issues. So in a shirt tail hem, you know it's going to come along and then curve around and then come back up. So a couple of things about that. This one I prepared to be a single turn. And again, on a shirt, I would only single turn a hem that was not going to show. So if I'm going to tuck the shirt in, I don't care so much that it's that beautiful double turn. But it is curved. And to get this curve, you see how much more fabric. And this is also applicable in any circle skirt or A-line skirt. When you go to hem it, the piece you're hemming is wider or longer than the piece you're sewing it to. So that really requires stitching from the right side. But before I stitch from the right side, I'm going to crimp this area right here to help it squeeze in a little bit. So it's just kind of aids the feed dog. So when we crimp, we'll use the same stitch length we normally use. And I'm going to come back here with the pad of my finger and I'm going to push a bunch of this fabric right up against, the back of the foot. And then I'm going to sew. And the whole thing's going to bunch up. And you'll see in a second if you haven't seen this demo before. Alrighty. So all along an outside curve is where you would want to crimp. This works really good in princess seams. So you see how that has made tiny little tucks. So when I turn this over, now it's even too short, but that's okay because it's flexible. It'll lay right out there flat like that. See? So then we're just going to stitch it from the top again. Now this is wider. And I'm stitching with contrasting thread like I always do on camera so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. And I'm going to give you another tip about a shirt tail hem when I get around here. So we have this, we'll take it over, we'll press it, it'll lay nice and flat. But the thing I want you to see right here is that, do you see what happened here? This does not come up here. You're going to think it should, but it can't because we've got this inside curve. and it's going to automatically pull that backwards unless it was cut extra. So that's why we do all of our shirt tail hems before we sew the side seam. Because now we're going to come in here with a 5/8 inch seam allowance and stitch this seam, and that missing part is not important anymore because it's gone. All right, and then it allows our hem to lay nice and flat. So that is single turn crimping. Now, and notice that I pressed it up. I forgot to tell you, I pressed it up 5/8 inch, and I'm only pressing on the edge. Otherwise, you would be folding all this up. So now we want to double turn this. That's why it's not serged. Now I'm going to crimp it, and we'll double turn it. Let's see about there. Okay, so turn it over. See how these little crimps? They're just like cupcake papers. You can just flatten them right out. But if you leave them alone, they'll stay crimped up like that. And then you can adjust it to exactly what you need. Now I'm going to turn it under like that and stitch it from the right side. And we're always going to stitch a curve and a shirt tail hem from the right side because we have to, otherwise we'll be fighting all the way because the feed dog are pulling in what's on the bottom. So we want the biggest piece on the bottom. And just work your way around, folding that under as you go. Maybe stitch 4, 6 inches at a time. So there we go. And there, I think you get the idea. Okay, now let's see if we have any questions before we go any further.
Yes. Laura would like to know oh, it's jumping, sorry.
Okay, Laura.
Is a needle width away actually 1/8 inch for us engineering types?
Okay, so we have some engineering types, and she wants to know if a needle width away is 1/8 inch. It's more like 1/16. It's less than an eighth for sure. Um, we always say if you could lay a needle on the edge of this fabric between the stitching and the edge, that's the needle width. So it's the width of a sewing needle. So yeah, and that's what you'll see in all the ready to wear. And I can't emphasize this enough. I get questions all the time. People say, well, should I put this on the right side? Should I hem it this way? Should I do it that way? Should I do double top stitch? Is it okay to do top stitch if the pattern doesn't say I can? Here's the thing. You go look at fine ready to wear. Ready to wear that you admire, ready to wear that you would wear if you wanted to spend that much money. Then you apply those techniques to your own garments. You don't have to have permission to do it one way or the other. So, not sure exactly where I was going with that, but
Another question.
okay.
Do you crimp knits?
Do you crimp knits? There's no need to crimp a knit. So we don't crimp knits. So if I've got a piece that's bigger and I want to sew it to a piece that's smaller, I'm going to stretch the smaller piece to meet the bigger piece and stitch them together as I go. You want to make sure it gets in there evenly. You don't want it all your excess at one end. But yep, knits are so forgiving and easy to work with as long as you know some of the little tips and tricks. Anything else?
That's it for now.
Okay, so let's talk about again those hemlines that are A-line or circular. So hemlines that are when you have any kind of skirt that goes in like this, okay? So if you had a gored skirt, This is going to be bigger here than where you stitch it to. So you're going to need to crimp that entire hem on a circle, and you'll be able to put it in by machine very easily, or the crimping will even help you put it in by hand if you need to put it in by hand. Only couture garments today are very special garments are done by hand. There's a few garments you really got to do by hand, like a wool coat, maybe. There are some things, but most things are done by machine in one way or another. So, anyway, just remember on that curve. Now, on a skirt hem, you're either going to double turn it or you're going to cover the raw edge of that hem so that it just looks pretty, especially a big full skirt because it could flip up or whatever. Just a little bit prettier on the inside. So a couple weeks ago, I was talking on Tuesdays at 2, and I said something about hem tape. And there was quite a few people that said, "What is that? What is that?" And I was surprised. Well, it's called seam binding sometimes, and it is a, what do I want to say, like an acetate maybe? This one's 100% taffeta. It was also 19 cents, so it's really old. This one was 35, a little bit newer. Let's see what this one is. Oh, 10 cents. This one's got to be from the early 60s. So it's just mm, it's a synthetic fabric that will not fray, but it's very, very flat and very thin. And I don't know if it's easily available today, but it used to come in like a whole lot of different colors. So we would use that a lot. And then when knits came out, we said we couldn't use this because this didn't stretch and the garment did. So then they came out with stretchable seam binding. Now this one isn't, but well, maybe it is a little bit. But they had like a lace and it was stretchy. So then your seam binding or your hem tape was stretchy along with your knit garment. So that's what we used to do. Now we have cover hems and sergers. This was way before cover hems and sergers. And so we don't always need this, but sometimes there are cases where you're going to want to use some kind of seam binding. Maybe you're going to make your own. Maybe you're going to make some bias. Where's that jacket? I have a jacket here. Look, Brenda, will you hand me that jacket that looks like newsprint? Thank you, Fane. All right. So, in this case, this is an unlined jacket. And I didn't cover all the seams because I just didn't have the time. But I did want to cover the facing and the hem. And I used a bias silk. So I had some hand dyed silk scrap and I cut it in bias and applied the bias edge. It's often called a Hong Kong finish. And I believe we have that in tips and tricks on our YouTube channel. So if you go to playlist, you'll find it. It's tips and tricks, and it'll tell you how to do this uh, edge on the inside of your garment. And this is a linen jacket. So I'll just mention that I underlined it in silk organza. And when you underline something in silk organza, it just floats behind it. But it kind of serves like tissue paper does when you fold garments in tissue paper, they don't wrinkle. Well, with the silk organza, I was able to travel all over the country, have this in my suitcase, and still wear it at different sewing events because that silk organza. And do we have that on there too? Underlining. Look for underlining in on our YouTube, and you will see how to do that. Okay, so you want to do that you could also use the pre-made stuff, or you can make your own, and that can be kind of fun. All right, so any questions before I go to the next? Let's talk about a blind hem. Where my wastebasket went. Okay. So in the newsletter, in the top left-hand corner is a blind hem. And they have blind hem blind hem machines, but on a lot of your multifunctional home sewing machines, you'll have the blind hem stitch. So here's what the blind hem stitch looks like. You'll see it in the, in the little pictures. Is it two stitches, one stitch? I think it's 2-1. Could be 3-1. I think it's 2-1. So it stitches like this. Okay. So to do a blind hem, you're going to fold up the hem of your fabric. So this is my hem, and it's the wrong side of the garment. Okay. Then I'm going to take the garment and fold it back slightly more than the hem. So we're still on the wrong side, but this is the edge of the hem sticking out here. Or it could be the hem tape. So then you're going to put it under the foot of your sewing machine, and the machine's going to stitch. But you've got to do a little practice so you get it just in the right place. But some of those feet will hook right underneath this fold, so you can't go wrong. But if you've got an older machine, you might have to do some adjusting. So then it's going to take 2 stitches in your binding. It's going to come up and take 1 small stitch here, 2 stitches here, 1 here. And that little stitch that it takes is almost invisible on the right side of the garment. They're spaced 3 stitches apart, or 2 stitches apart, and they're very tiny, and the rest of it's all anchoring onto the hem itself. So if you haven't done this, look in your manual. But if you have any type of decorative, these are called utility stitches, but it's called the blind hem stitch, and that's how it works. So if you make a wool skirt or something dressy, you don't want a machine stitch hem. And maybe you don't want to take the time to hand stitch. This is your option. Just make sure your thread matches your fabric perfectly and don't take any bigger bite out of that than you have to. So again, this is going to come up here. If you're too close here, it's going to come up too high and make too big of a bite. And then it's going to show on the other side. So just make sure you stay nice and close. But again, and I say this all the time, we were talking about it at lunch today. Somebody was at lunch and she's doing some bound buttonholes, and we were talking about interfacing, and I said, just do a sample. Do 2 or 3 samples in different configurations to get. And she says, I know I forget to do samples. I always just want to get to the project. And I said, oh, I know. I used to be that way too. And once I was forced to have to make samples, I realized it made all the difference in my sewing because I didn't waste anything. I didn't get upset because I ruined my garment because I never made that kind of buttonhole before. So samples, samples, samples. Where I got some samples here. Like we always sample buttonholes. We always sample stitching. What color thread do I want to top stitch with? We pick some of the fabric, and here we've stitched different stitch lengths. Which one do we like? Buttonholes. Look at this. Now this is interesting, people. I really like to show this. This is denim, and you may not even be able to see the stitching on this side. These are stitched at 1 and 2. 1, 2, 2.5, maybe 3. It isn't till we get to 4 and 5 that the actual color of the thread sits on top of the fabric. Why is that? It's because denim has what's called a high loft. So almost imagine it's just like thicker, thicker. And so when you stitch into it, those threads can just get embedded in there. And if you don't want them to show, I think it's okay. But if you want them to show, you need to kind of play with it till you get the right. And I used to make a lot of wool melton coats and capes. And Michelle, if you're listening, top stitch at least a 4. but you may have to go to 4.5 or 5. Otherwise, it just sinks right into the fabric and you don't even see the stitching. So, and I don't know, top stitching should be seen in my world. So anyway, all right. What else do we need to talk about? Okay, now let me talk about this shirt. Again, we're back to the shirt tail. Okay, I've got two shirts here of the same pattern. One is the striped. You got the red striped one over
Yep.
there, Brent? Yeah, thank you. All right, so a lot of you have seen this one. Well, let's take a look at this one and this one. Now, they are the exact same pattern. And this is all came from our Stop the Insanity series, where we talk about take the same pattern and make several different garments and they don't even look alike, which you can see this one's very different than that one. Well, I also did the hem treatment differently. So this one is the traditional, I showed you double turned, crimped and double turned. This one, and this you want to choose, sometimes it's an outside garment. I want to wear it on the outside, but also certain fabrics you would want to do this with. So I face the hem. Instead of hemming it, I just cut from the pattern itself about a inch and 3/4, 2 inch piece of facing, faced both the front and the back and right up the side. And that's easy to do. And it doesn't have to be part of the pattern. You could do that very easily. So you could actually hem it. And sometimes some fabrics just don't hem well or they don't turn up well. So this could be a great alternative. We did that also in one of our very most popular patterns, which is our Jacket Express. And this one is also a very curvy hem. And it actually curves down more in the front. And this one also has that Hong Kong finish with the hand dyed silk, just to give it a little pizzazz. But again, that's spaced here. Facing just goes really fast as far as hemming, and it gives you a nice, not only a nice clean finish, but it gives you a heavier hem. You know, sometimes the thickness of your hem is important for weighting the garment down. You don't want to necessarily weight down a lightweight. This was like lawn, but when it gets to be a heavier cotton or a canvas, yeah, I want like a little bit more substantial hem. Okay, so now what hems do I want to talk about today? Let's see. Okay, rolled hems. Now there's a picture in the newsletter of the rolled of one of the rolled hems. And that is when you do it on a knit. You'll see it's like curly, lettucey. They call it a lettuce edge sometimes. And all you do is kick your differential way down so it's stretching it out as you're sewing. Or you can even, if you don't have a differential, you can just stretch it as you're putting it through there. And you want that really nice satin edge, and you'll have a beautiful little uh, lettuce edge. So it's real cute for cuffs or collars. Also, blind hems. Again, there is such a thing as a blind hem machine in the factories, but at home, a lot of us, did I mean blind hem here?
No,
uh,
nine times was the machine.
yeah. Where was I going with that? Okay, well, I know I had something in mind. Oh, the rolled hem. Okay, so on most of your sergers, you're going to find a rolled hem option. Practice with it before you go to do it on a garment. There are ways to do rolled hems on a sewing machine. You'll need to look up tutorials because every machine's a little bit different. And of course, there's the hand rolled hem, like in chiffons and things. But on the serger, the one tip I'm going to give you that was true every time I've done a rolled hem, I had to put fresh needles in. I sit down, and I go to serge and I set it all up for the rolled hem and I go and it's skipping stitches or it's just one little loop out of place every so often. And I try adjusting everything and then I put fresh needles in and it's beautiful. Next time I go through the same thing. Now I just go, oh, before I do a rolled hem, I'm putting fresh needles in. So that's just a tip if you're having any difficult. In some hems, I like to recommend. Oh, that you had it in your hand, yeah. So our Islander shirt, which is our kind of describes it, like a resort shirt, and this one's a linen. I like to put interfacing in the hems of the sleeves and the hem of the shirt. And again, it gives it more stability and it's not as likely to wrinkle up because there's a little interfacing in there. You just use our light and stable so it doesn't give it a heavy hand and it doesn't drape any different than the rest of the garment, but it just gives that hem, keeps that crisper look. And if you have to press it, you'll have to do less pressing because you've prepared it with the right amount of interfacing. It's just the same as, you put interfacing in the hem of the pocket. This gives it a little more stability. Okay, so I guess what I have here was examples again. Now, this is an example of the single turn shirt tail hem with the serging. And I guess that's enough examples. Okay,
Question about the jacket. Do you see the top stitching? Yes.
top stitching on
The,
this one.
yeah.
Okay. The question is, do you see the top stitching on here? Well, I have purposely top stitched the bottom in the contrasting thread that I use throughout. But when I sewed the hem in, I used the background color. So yes, you can see it, but no, you don't notice it. Okay. Now let's talk about cover hems on knits. Knits almost have to have a cover hem or a cover hem look because you don't want to do them by hand and they won't work in a blind hem situation. So the cover hem is the best thing that came along for us. Here's an example of a hem. Remember, we did the Baja Challenge. Man, that must have been about 3 years ago, Brenda. And we had the striped French terry knit. Well, this is the result, and here is the hem. So, what a cover hem does is all in one operation, it serges the wrong side while double top stitching the right side. So I was fascinated the first time I saw this because I was, how do you do that? How do they do that both sides at the same time? I love that. However, if you do not have a serger or yours is in the shop or something, you can accomplish this same hem. Let me say this again. Not that you don't have a serger, is that you don't have a cover hem option on your serger. So you would just serge up the raw edge like we did with our single turn. But, and this is on knits, of course, when you go to top stitch it, you're going to use a twin needle. Now, a twin needle is simply a needle with two needles. Here, there's a twin needle right there. And they come in different widths, the distance the two needles are apart. This one's extremely narrow. You'd want a wider one for to do a cover hem. But you're going to put two threads at the top of your machine, put them through the needles, one bobbin thread. Okay. Now, what happens is as the top is stitching straight, that bobbin thread is catching and going back and forth underneath. And then what happens often is a result of this area between the two stitchings will raise up. And the reason it's raising up is because that bobbin thread is trying to catch both sides and it's pulling it. So all you have to do is loosen your bobbin tension ever so slightly until this lays flat. And then you're going to have the identical look to a cover hem without having the cover hem machine. So that's knits. I think that covers what I was going to talk about today. Oh, wait, horsehair braid. Those big circle skirts. And this is like from a costume. So somebody used a net in a costume to create the same thing. This is kind of almost overkill, but it's called horsehair braid, and you apply it inside the hem. And a lot of times what they do is they cover that with a bias on the inside, maybe even a contrasting color because it's kind of fun. But this horsehair braid will make the hem, well, just stick out just like that picture. So if you're looking for that kind of a look, this is the product you need. Horsehair braid. What is this? 225, 1 inch wide, 2 yards long. So you check how long your hem is. You might need 2 packages. Okay, there. I think that is it, right? Okay. So any hemming questions about what we talked about or something we didn't talk about? Wait, I am not done. Bagging the lining instead of hemming.
Yeah.
All right, so this is our Motor City Express. And there you'll see no hemming. I don't want any hemming to show on this. And a lot of times you look at a jacket and you see no hemming. There is none. How does that stay up there? Well, it stays up there because it's connected to the lining that is shorter. This entire operation of lining this jacket is all done by machine. There is absolutely no hand stitching whatsoever, including after we turn it. So it's a fun technique to learn, and it certainly feels like magic once you do it. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. So instead of hemming and having that look, you can have that nice clean look with no hem showing by bagging the lining. Okay.
Your hemming chart.
Okay, so I did create a hemming chart.
Somebody.
This happens to me when I'm working all the time. I lose stuff, but it's in here somewhere. Okay, but mine is all marked up. But Brenda thought it'd be really great if we offered you a copy of this. So the next time you purchase, oh, here's a clean one. Look at that. Next time you purchase from Islander Sewing Systems, just put in the comment box that you'd like a copy of this, and we will get one to you. And it's just a nice little, we talk about the width. A lot of times people just don't know how wide should a hem be. So there are my suggestions, and most of them are standard to ready to wear, fine ready to wear, because that's what we teach at Islander. How to make garments that are made the way fine ready to wear is made. Things you find at Saks, things you find at Nordstrom's, just about anywhere. So we're happy to help you with your sewing, and we hope that we see you again soon. We do Tuesdays at 2 every month, so we'll be back again in December.
Bundle.
But make sure if you don't get our newsletter, please go to the website, islandersewing.com, upper right hand side on the bar, click newsletter and sign up for it. But we put in the newsletter today that we have a gift bundle, and it's called Better Sewing, Better Sewing.
Yeah.
I bet somebody already saw the newsletter. Uh, Anyways, it's a gift. It's a gift that you could give yourself, or a gift you could give someone who loves to sew as much as we do or would like to learn. So it's got some of our best notions and our absolute best video class. And that video class can be downloaded right into an app in your own computer, and you can put it on up to 3 different devices. Or you can just house it on our website and go there anytime you want to watch it, but it will be yours forever.
Better sewing skills gift.
Yeah, better sewing skills. That's it. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. So, and it really is because it's got the Islander Sewing Systems 1 shortcuts by Margaret Islander. And that's where you'll learn things like I showed you today with the single and the double turn and the shirt tail hem, but you're going to learn how to put pockets on and zippers in and flat felled seams. And they're all done without any pins or basting because Margaret learned from the industry after being a home sewer and saw the huge difference and passed it on to me, having been a home sewer and her niece. I gobbled it up too and actually created my own line of garments for quite a number of years before I went into teaching. So it's an excellent system and any home sewer can use it. Just got to get started. So get started by watching some of our videos on YouTube or take a look at our class selections and make sure you're signed up for the newsletter. All right. And we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and we're islandersewingsystems.com. And we hope you have a marvelous Thanksgiving and enjoy your friends and family.
Ooh.
My cameraman lost it. Did you hang up? Are we done?
No, I don't know how to.
All right. Our cameraman
I
can't
just-
take it anymore. So
I
we're going to
just
say
end
goodbye
it.
now.